All right, we're gonna start now on 4-2, which is writing equations in slope-intercept form. So we've already talked about what slope-intercept form is. Sorry, I'm just turning an extra light on. That might make it more blurry. Not sure what's going on with this. Yeah, this looks less blurry, I think. Okay, so writing equations in slope-intercept form. So we talked about slope-intercept form. What is slope-intercept form? Okay, so a linear equation in slope-intercept form is when you write an equation that is solved for y, and then the other side is in this form mx plus b. Okay, if you remember, m is our slope, b is our y-intercept. Okay, so if we're going to write an equation in slope-intercept form, and we're given the slope and the y-intercept, all we do is we take this form and put in our slope for m. Okay, so -1/3 x, and then our y-intercept for b. And that's all we do when we're writing in slope-intercept form, when we're given slope and the y-intercept. All right, but now let's look at this case. What if we're given a point that's not the y-intercept? So up here, we had the slope and the y-intercept. Here we have the slope, and then we just have some random point. Okay, this isn't the y-intercept, because at the y-intercept, remember, x equals 0. So if we were to talk about this point here, I don't know why it's being unfocused. Okay, if we talk about this point here, the y-intercept, that's the point where x is 0 and then our y is -7. Okay, this point, obviously, x is not 0, x is -3, so that's not the y-intercept. So how do we write this in y-intercept form? Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take what we know. We are given enough information to figure this out. So, a point. A point is a solution to a linear equation, right? If we're given a point in a linear equation, that's a solution, okay? So what that means is you put -3 in for x and 1 in for y, right? Because our points are x, y. If we put those values into our equation, we're going to get something equal on both sides. So we're trying to write an equation in slope-intercept form. We know what our slope is. Oh, why is this not being focused? Okay, we know what our slope is. It's 2. Okay, so I'm at this point. But another thing we have is we have an xy pair. We know that when x is -3, y is 1. That's what a point is on a linear equations graph. It's the solution. So when x is -3, y is 1. So why don't I just put these values in for x and y? So now I'm shifting over here. And let's see, my y value is 1 equals 2 times x is -3. So -3 plus b, right? 1 equals 2 times -3 is -6. Why not? My only variable now is b. So I can solve for b. So to get b alone, I have a -6. So to get rid of a negative, I add. I do it to both sides. So let's cancel. I got 7 equals b. 1 plus 6 is 7. Okay. So remember, b is y-intercept. So now, finally, I've got enough information to write my equation in slope-intercept form. I've got my slope of 2, and then my b is 7. So my y-intercept is 7. And so that's how I write equation when I'm given slope, but I only am given just a random point, not necessarily the y-intercept. You can find the y-intercept by plugging that point in for x and y in your equation along with the slope. So that point right there. All right, one more different situation or case we need to look at. What if we are only given 2 points? Okay, so no y-intercept along with no slope. Okay, so we have 2 points on the graph with no slope. How's that going to work? Okay, first thing you're going to do, I'm going to write this here. First thing we're going to do is find the slope from the points. Right, we can find our slope given 2 points, and we've done this on the 3-3 worksheet. Okay, remember slope is change in y over change in x. Okay, or if you think of the slope song, difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. So what I'm going to do to find my slope, okay, remember slope is m, I'm going to subtract the y's. I'll do 4 minus 1. Those are my y values, so I'll subtract them. And then since I did the 4 first, now I have to do this x first. So 3 minus 5. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So that's negative 3 over 2, or negative 1.5. Okay, I'm probably going to use this right here, negative 3 over 2. That way, if I were to graph it, I have it as a fraction, rise over run. All right, so that's our first step. Now, we actually have enough information. We have our slope, negative 3 over 2, or negative 1.5. And we have just as much information, if not a little bit more, than we did up here. We have our slope, and up here we had a point. Now we have 2 points. So what you can do is pick whichever one of these points that you want to use the same way we use this point. So, reminder now, well, what we do next is we use slope and 1 point to find y-intercept, or b. Okay, and that's what we did in this up here. We used our slope and a point to find the value of b. All right, so I'm just going to use this point, 5, 1. All right, so I'm trying to write an equation in slope-intercept form. I have b, or not b, I have m, and I have an x and a y pair. So my y that I'm using is 1, so 1 equals my m, which is my slope. I'm going to use the negative 1.5 right now since I'm writing this, like I'm doing the math with it. Sometimes a decimal can be a little bit easier. Times my x, okay, my x is 5, plus b, because I don't know what my b is, and that's what I need to find out. So I need to do negative 1.5 times 5. Negative 1.5 times 5 is negative 7.5. I have 1 equals negative 7.5 plus b. Okay, to get rid of negative 7.5, I will add 7.5. If I bring it over here, okay, those will cancel. I'm left with b. 1.1 plus 7.5 is 8.5. So b is 8.5, or my y-intercept is 8.5. So finally, I get to write my equation. I have my y-intercept, and I have my slope. So y equals slope times x plus y-intercept. And that is my final answer. All right, so remember, if you're given a slope and a point, you can plug in your point as x and y and your slope as m. Solve for b. If you're given 2 points, use your points to find your slope. Now you have slope and points, same thing as up here. Use a point as x and y, your slope is m, find b. And don't forget to, once you're done finding all those things, to then finally write your equations in slope-intercept form. Right, that's all I got for you today. Um, email me with any questions that you might have.